Hello, dear viewer. I'm just hanging out at the park. Nothing ominous here at the park. Except, what are those birds over there? Almost feels like they're watching me. What's this? Oh, no. One of them's circling. Well, I guess a little bird isn't gonna hurt me. A bird definitely will not cause me any harm today. Today, we're talking about the inevitability of death and suspense. We're also talking about suspense and also The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's 1963 masterpiece of, you guessed it, horror and suspense. If you haven't seen it, it's got horror and suspense and some pecked out eyes. So beware. But the scene we're talking about is a great showcase of suspense in movies and how it works. Now, Alfred Hitchcock, of course, is a master, maybe the master of cinematic suspense. Like we said in another video, he's great at making ordinary things sinister and disquieting. For instance, crows are a pretty ordinary thing. Hey buddy, hey! But having a bunch of crows cover a jungle gym a few feet away from you isn't so ordinary. It feels kind of sinister. So how does the scene work to build tension? Well, it's not because it's bloody and violent or anyone is screaming. It's not because scary music plays. It's basically through editing. In one shot, the main character, Melanie Daniels, sits down on a bench and begins to pull a cigarette out of her purse. We see a single crow land on the jungle gym behind her. Then Hitchcock cuts to a closer shot of Melanie having a cigarette. We can't see the jungle gym now. We wonder what's happening there. And he doesn't make us wait too long, though. We cut to a shot that shows us only the jungle gym. There's some more birds on it. Then we cut back to Melanie. Then we cut back to the jungle gym. Another bird lands, then back to Melanie. And we just wait. And wait. And wait. She's smoking her cigarette. We know she needs to look behind her, but she doesn't. From time to time, she looks quickly towards the school. Why? For what? It's not the right place to be looking. Look behind you, Melanie! Finally, a flying crow catches her eye. The camera tracks the crow as it flies, and lands on the jungle gym, which is completely full of birds. There's no dialogue in this scene, and that actually only adds to the suspense. We want to know what will happen and when. We want the character to figure out her danger. Will she? Will she escape? What's going to happen? A good scene of suspense is patient. It makes you wait for the resolution of these things. That's what makes it interesting. Notice, too, how you have more information than Melanie has, but not all the information that you want. Not enough to satisfy you that she's going to be safe, for example, but enough to be scared on her behalf. Hitchcock said that suspense was different than surprise. Surprise, he said, is two guys sitting at a table talking, and suddenly a bomb goes off and the table blows up. They're both dead. Surprise! But what if we see somebody plant the bomb? And then we watch the guys at the table eat and talk and do table stuff. We wonder when it will go off. That's suspense.
Yes?
In this scene in The Birds, the bomb under the table is, you guessed it, the birds. Storytelling is all about, as we've said before, making promises to the audience. Stick with us and we'll tell you the story of how these two crazy people fell in love. Stick with us and you'll see dinosaurs. Not yet, not yet. Oh, there they are. But hang in there and you'll see some really scary dinosaurs. Oh boy, when you see them, it'll be really scary, I bet. Oh man, this is gonna be scary. It's gonna be so, oh goodness gracious me. Have you ever noticed when you go to a nice restaurant that the joy of the experience isn't just the taste of the food, it's the anticipation, it's the sights, it's the smells, it's looking at the menu and deciding, it's eating a dinner roll while you wait, it's digesting afterwards. Actually, a whole lot of the experience is created not by the experience in and of itself, but by contemplating it in different ways, before, during, and after. God made us that way, and as Christians, we know pretty much why, because He wanted us to enjoy Him and the things He's done. That's why the Psalms are full of prayers that just recount God's deeds. It's one of the reasons the Bible exists, to tell God's stories. His people are supposed to savor them again and again and again, let them roll around in their minds, look at them from different angles, and look forward to what God is going to do in the future. But our brains don't just work like that in relation to God. They work like that in relation to lots of things, from food to relationships to stories. It actually wouldn't be as fun if Jurassic Park was all dinosaurs all the time. Instead, the movie is designed to get you to delight in the idea of dinosaurs, wonder what they're going to be like, see them, marvel at them, and then go home and buy the stupid toys and keep thinking about them forever.
Look out, guys! Fire the net!
Okay, well, what does that have to do with the birds and with cinematic suspense? Well, suspense makes a promise too, but it's a negative promise. These guys don't figure out there's a bomb under the table, they're gonna get blowed up. If Melanie doesn't realize the crows are gathering, she might end up as bird food. If this chick doesn't realize there's a shark in the water, she might, oh boy, that's a real bummer. One question you might ask is, why? Why do we go to movies that make us negative promises? Like, watch this movie and you'll probably see some birds kill people. Well, some of it really is a negative instinct in the mind of man, not much different from the carnival barker telling us if we come into this tent, you'll see a guy bite the heads off of chickens. Or our bad friends in school who wanted to show us something gross or forbidden on the internet. See this movie and you'll see how a Texas Chainsaw Massacre can happen. See this movie and you'll see all the ways a serial killer can ply his bloody trade or whatever. I don't think that's the whole story, though. There's another thing, which is that we know that sometimes in life, bombs really are under the table. Sometimes nature does turn on you. Sometimes you think you're having a fun day on the beach or a nice cigarette by the jungle gym, but a predator is waiting to claim you as his prey. If you're watching this, you're gonna die someday. And not everybody gets to die in a really pleasant way, if there is such a thing. There's an old Latin phrase, media vitae in morte sumus. You might know it best from its use in the Book of Common Prayer at funerals. In the midst of life, we are in death. In a way, there's a bomb under the table of every one of us. We're all waiting to know when it will go off. That's part of being human in a sinful world. Of course, as Christians, we don't live as those without hope. Jesus Christ destroyed death and gave us life eternal, but that doesn't mean we're cheap about the horror of death and living in a world full of death. We're not cheap like a carnival barker turning death into a geek show, which is what all these kinds of movies do.
Beware is coming.
But we're also not cheap in pretending like death isn't real and scary and horrible. So maybe it's not all bad when certain stories promise to show us something of death and darkness. We want to be reminded that these things exist, that we can't outrun them forever, but that sometimes in this life, and certainly in the next, they can be escaped and ultimately defeated.